Today we're doing an edit of Netflix Stranger Things. We'll start by doing the environment. We're gonna add a lot of photos, blend them all together. Then we're gonna add the model, change the color of what he's wearing and blend him with the environment. Then we're gonna add the monster, blend him with the environment, and then color grade everything together. Hey there, my name is Ali, and today I'm gonna take you step by step how I created this tutorial. The first thing is it's inspired from Stranger Things, the shadow monster. The first thing is I just went over the internet and downloaded a couple of photos just so I understand how it's going. So here we have the kids looking at the monster and the red sky and all cloudy and some sort of explosions. Here is the original one, I guess, and it's also the same, but there is a variation between red and blue in the sky. This one is to take what the shadow monster actually look like. It's just like a head and hands, and at the end of every hand it has something like fingers or something like that. And this is from the scene in the series itself, but this one was completely blue environment. However, we can get a closer look on how it looks like we said, head, several hands and legs, and every one of them separates into something like 3 fingers. Okay, now we understand what we wanna do. Then the second thing is finding stock. I decided this will be the main environment. We'll use these 3 for the sky, and we will use this for our model. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna pull my background. These photos, I'll link them in the description. They are all for free, you can access them. Okay, then the second thing I want to do, I'll just adjust the proportions a little bit. I want to have it into thirds, so that the house is on the left third, the model or the boy, I'll put him on the right third, and then the monster will be somewhere here looking at the boy. I'll just draw it for you so you can imagine it. Okay, now after I did that, what I did was trying on a new layer. This will be the head of the monster, the hands, something like that. Then separating into the fingers, another hand like that. That's the close one, and the narrow one is the far one. And the boy will be somewhere standing here. And if you want to go through colors, let's say we have red and the blue. I'll use the 2 colors. I'll add red this part, and I'll add blue on the top part, and this will be a little bit desaturated red here. And if I change this to color mode, we will see the colors. It doesn't look actually good because the sky, but this is the idea. Okay, so one thing I want to do, I'll just press Ctrl T, make it a little bit narrower, something like that. And maybe I'll pull a little bit from down and a little bit from up. Okay, the house was too wide, I guess. Okay, this thing what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna reduce the size of the file. You don't have to do this, I'll just do it so that I can work faster because I'm recording and it takes a lot of the process in my CPU. Okay, so let's get started. First thing we're gonna do is the environment. This is it's too bright for our scene, and we saw before, we need to make it dark, somehow blue. So I'm gonna add a curves adjustment, link it below, and I'm just gonna reduce the highlights a lot. And no, I'm not gonna play with the shadows, just reduce the highlights. Then I'm gonna add another hue saturation layer, and let's try to play around. I'll just take my greens or yellows, which is the grass. I'll pull it a little bit towards the greens. Now we're targeting the yellows and the greens. If you can see some from the sky, but it's okay. I'm gonna desaturate it a little bit, and I'm gonna move it. I don't know. I'll just leave it as it is at 0. The hue, I'll just desaturate it. Okay, and then I'll add a color balance layer, and I'll just add some blue. Let's add it in the shadows, blue and cyan. Okay, then I guess it still needs some darkening, so I'll even like darken it more. Okay, now one thing I want to do is I want to cut out my like sky from the building. I want to have them on separate layers, so I'll just use the lasso tool. You can press while in the lasso tool Control plus or like Command plus when you're using Mac to zoom in or out. I'm gonna speed up this part actually, so we don't waste time. Okay, now since I'm done with my selection, now what I've selected is the sky. But I want the opposite, so I'm gonna hold Control Shift, press I. Now we have the opposite. On this layer, I'm gonna press Control J. So now I have a duplicate of only the lower area. However, the sky got brightened because all the layers we made are now only affecting the house. So I'm gonna hold them, all of them, hold Alt, and just copy them again to the what's below. So now it's on the sky and on the house alone. Okay, why I did this? I did this because now I can add layer in between them, and I can choose to color only the sky or add something only to the sky. And this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna add my first sky, this one. I'm gonna add it here. I'm gonna like stretch it out. Yeah, something like that. I want some of the orange and just like the rest. Okay. Now I'm gonna reduce its opacity a little bit. And one thing I don't like is you have the hard edge because I cut using the lasso tool. So on this layer, I'm gonna add a layer mask and just using a black brush, I'll reduce the opacity just a little bit. I'm gonna press click, hold shift and press click. Hold shift, I'm holding shift, I'm just pressing click. So it's going in some sort of a straight line just to get rid of the harsh edge we had. And I'll do the same here, getting rid of the harsh edge. Okay, I have a problem with the cutting. Actually, I need to fix it. These areas need to be like refined. You can just take your time with like cutting. It will give you better results. I went like a little bit fast. Okay, now we need to add the other sky, which is this one. It's so cloudy. I'll add it, but not on top of everything. I'll add it here. So it's only on top of the back sky. I'm gonna press Ctrl T and just pull it up. Now, of course, it's too bright. I'll rasterize it. I'm rasterizing all my layers so it goes like faster. I'm rasterizing it. I'm going to the curves. And I'm just gonna pull that down. Something like that. I'll try changing it actually to screen. That's too bright. Maybe multiply. Too dark. Okay, I'll just go with overlay or soft light. And on the curves, I'm gonna pull my blacks up. Something like that. And I'll add a brightness and contrast layer, link it below. I want it to be dark. Yeah. Then I'm gonna add a hue and saturation layer, link it below. This is more greenish. I want it to be like blue. So when I'll move it to the right, it will be more blue. Yeah, something like that. But then I have a problem. I still have greens down there. So I'm gonna add another hue and saturation layer. But this time I'm gonna tell him only target my greens and a little bit of the cyan. And then I'm gonna move it to the right. Now we only targeting this area. Okay, now I'm gonna take that layer actually and I'll just reduce its opacity. So we have like some sort of a storm which is not like covering everything. I'm gonna increase its size as well, maybe something like really big. Okay, something like that is good. But then we lost some sort of like the skyline. We had a skyline, an original skyline here. In this photo, if we move it up a little bit and we bring the opacity to the max, we also have like some sort of a skyline here. I wanna use one of them. I don't know which one to use actually, but I guess the one behind is the best. So I'm gonna move this one up and I'll start adding layer mask, and just with a black brush, I'm just gonna get rid of some of it. Something like that. Then I'll bring back my storm, and on the storm I'll add another layer mask and get rid of the lower part so we have like the skyline visible. Okay, now I'm gonna add a layer. Now we need to start like doing our coloring. I'm gonna add a layer and just color red at this area. I'll do it with a gradient so it's like more subtle. I like to use the one in the middle here. This will like add red. We can like do a better gradient if we go like some sort of orange first. So I'll add some orange, then I'll change to red, and I'll start adding some red on top of the orange. So it's going from orange to red somehow. Okay, then I'm gonna change the blending mode to overlay. Okay, now we have some sort of like red in the lower area. I'm gonna just pull it a little bit higher. And using the eraser, I'm just gonna very softly erase parts at the top like that. So it's not like just a straight line of red. I erased it a little bit from the clouds here, some from the clouds there, some from the clouds here. So it's like the background is not the clouds are red. Okay, another thing I'm gonna do is on top of this layer, actually, I'm gonna add a layer, link it below. Now, whatever I draw, it's gonna be on that layer only. So we want like the red here to be also targeting the grass at the back. So I'm gonna just add some red at the back, some red on the house like that, and some red here. And just with a very low opacity, I'll just add some red like that. So it's like affecting parts of my photo also here and there. And I'll change this to color mode. Now it's coloring red, but I'm gonna reduce the opacity, it's too strong. Okay, something like that. I still believe this one needs a little bit of darkening, so I'm gonna add brightness and contrast layer and just darken everything a little bit. Okay, I always like to use the navigator, guys, to take like look at it every while. So just you take a fresh look on what you're working with. It's like a zoomed out look of what you're doing. So when you look at it, you see like the composition more. You're not like too close to the photo. You're seeing it from a different perspective. Okay, one more thing I want to do, I'll add a new layer, maybe this time on top of everything, and I'm gonna just use a brush. I'll press right click, I'll go to a cloud brush. You can just open Google, write cloud brushes, and you'll get millions of them for free. Okay, and I'm gonna pick a color from here, and then I'm just gonna add like the top area. The opacity is too low, we can see it. I'm gonna add some clouds on the top of the house, some blue like fog like clouds, and I'm gonna swap to red, but something a little bit dark, and I'm just gonna add some red clouds. It's not clouds, it's like some sort of fog or something like that. Okay, I'll try changing it to overlay. Don't know if this will work. It didn't work really well, so I'm gonna bring it back to normal. I don't want it to darken my photo. Let's try soft light. Also, it's darkening. Okay, so I'm gonna go with normal and just reduce the opacity of it. So now we have some sort of fog on top around the house and some down below on the like floor and everything. Okay, now one last thing we're gonna add to the environment is the lightning. I'm gonna add this photo. I'm gonna increase its size, something like that. Okay, then I'm gonna add layer mask and rasterize it first so it goes faster. Then I'm gonna mask it. Now I'm gonna change the blending mode to screen. What screen does, it only leaves the like the light or the white areas, so it's like better. But before we like changing it to screen, I'm gonna go to image adjustments, hue and saturation. This is purple. I want it to be the same color as blue. If you look, purple is right to the blue. So from purple to blue, we move left. So I'm gonna move this one left until I get the blue I want. This is now we're going to green, so something like that, I guess. It's blue, but the difference, this photo is like I don't know, it's not. It's somehow corrupted. I don't know. There is like some pixels, but it's okay because I'll change it to screen. Most of that will disappear. Then I'm gonna go to the the mask itself, and with the same cloud brush, I'm just first gonna like with 100% opacity, I wanna get rid of the edges and like the street and the trees and everything. We don't wanna have like some sort of edges in this one. And then I'm just gonna lower the opacity a lot, and I'll just start like erasing, trying to only leave the lightning. And if it's too bright, it is actually too bright, so I'm gonna stand on the layer itself. I'll go to image, adjustments, curves. I'm gonna like increase the blacks. Now we're getting rid of the blacks. We're just leaving the very bright areas, but that's too much. I'll do something like that. I'll also reduce the whites and more of the blacks, something like that. Now we have some settled thunder, but now when we made it darker, the color started to appear more. So it's obvious it's very purple compared to what's behind. So image adjustments, hue and saturation again. I'm gonna move the color until it's like matching. Okay, now it's matching. Just reduce the saturation a little bit. Okay, now let me zoom out. I guess it's still a little bit too colorful and too purple, so a little bit to the left and reduce the saturation. Okay, how I open the hue and saturation fast? I pressed Ctrl and U. It's here, hue and saturation, Ctrl plus U. But the thing about this, the difference between this and getting it from here, if you make any change, you can go back to it and change it. But the other one, you can't. It's just like permanent. It's a destructive way to edit. But if you're like sure of yourself, you can use it. Okay, so now I have my thunder. I have everything. I guess we can group now everything we made. And we're gonna call this the background. Okay, now we're done with the background. We have like two more things to do. We have our model and we have the monster. So let's jump to our model. I'm gonna use this photo. It's also gonna be linked in the description. Okay, how I'm gonna cut it is I'm gonna use the pen tool. And I'm just gonna like add points all around the model until it's over. I'm gonna fast forward this part. Okay guys, now I drew all around the model and then I added a layer mask to it. This is how it looked like now. Just draw like lines all around your model with the pen tool, and then after you're done like doing your selection, press the selection. It will tell you like you wanna select, say okay, and press add layer mask. Everything will be done. Okay, this is what I did. Okay, now I'm gonna rasterize the layer. Just right click rasterize. Then I'm gonna start like placing him. I want him to be like, no, not like that. I hold shift when I like make something smaller or bigger, so it preserve an aspect ratio. So I want my model to be here. To be sure where I wanna place him exactly, I'm gonna bring the crop tool, press a click. I wanna place him like at that point. So I'm gonna move him a little bit just to the left. Okay, now we're good. We're on the second third of the photo. Okay, now it's time like to blend our model to the photo. The first thing is like so bright and contrasty. If you see, it has like a lot of white highlights. So I'm gonna add a curves adjustment on top of him, link it below, and just bring the highlights very strongly down and bring the shadows a little bit up so we reduce the contrast between the lights and darks. And take a look. Okay, there is still a problem. I'm gonna fix it with like a creative way. I'm gonna just bring the highlights a lot down, something like that. But then I'm gonna press Ctrl and I to make it invisible. Then I'm gonna use the brush with a white color. Now wherever I'm gonna paint, I'm gonna bring back the like a lot of darkness I made. So I'm only gonna paint at the very bright areas or in the highlights. So I can only target the highlights and I'm not targeting the dark areas in the photo. Like I don't want the dark areas to be darker. I just want the bright areas to be dark. Yeah, something like that. And of course, like the part below should be really dark. So I'm just gonna add. Okay, great. Now we have our model. Okay, I just noticed something here. The lightning is overlapping the house. So I'm gonna get the lightning layer. I press Ctrl and click to get it. Then on the layer mask, I'm just gonna paint with a black brush here. So I just get rid of it. Okay. Okay, now I'll zoom into the model. Now we need to make him more realistic. There are two problems. The first one is the grass. The second one is the shadow. So the first thing, I'm gonna add a layer below the model himself with a black brush. I'm just gonna add 2 clicks. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl T, make it somehow wider and narrower, something like that. And then I'm just gonna like rotate it around, move it, and put it just below his legs, something like that. I'll have two like with 100% opacity just below the feet exactly. I'll merge them together. I merge by using Control and E. Then I'm gonna take the model himself, I'm gonna hold Alt and drag it below. Now I have another copy. I'm gonna apply layer mask. Then on that copy, I'm gonna press Control T, hold click, and just pull it all the way below and match it with the leg. Now I press Ctrl click on the layer. I made a selection on everything. With a black, I'm gonna hold Alt and press backspace. Now I colored it completely black. I'm gonna go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then I'm just gonna blur it, not 8, something like low radius, just to get rid of the sharp edges. Then I'm gonna reduce the opacity a lot, something like 20%. Just a very subtle shadow like that. Okay, now we're done with the shadow part and everything, but we have a problem, is the grass. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stand on the model himself, I'm gonna use a brush, and very softly I'm just gonna erase some of the edges of the shoe so that the grass somehow overlap it, something like that, with a regular brush, so it feels like it's like dipped inside the grass. Another thing you can do, everyone have this one, it's a grass like built-in brush. If you draw with it, it will draw some sort of a grass. So I'm erasing in like the grass with the grass brush. So now some grass will overlap the boots. Another thing we could do is we add a new layer on top of everything, and using the clone stamp tool with that grass brush and making sure it's current and below or all layers. So now we're cloning from all layers. I'll hold Alt and clone from here. I'll make it a little bit smaller, Alt and clone from here, and then I'm just gonna add some grass on his legs. Clone from here and just add some grass. So you see this one, it just adds some grass around his legs. Okay, now we're done with blending the model. The thing about this one, I don't like his colors at all. It's like completely gray, so we're gonna color it. Okay, so how we're gonna do that? I'm gonna stand on top of it. I'm gonna go to Hue and Saturation. I'm gonna link it below, and I'm gonna press colorize. It will colorize everything. Let's say I need a blue jeans, so I'm gonna go with like a blue color, a dark blue actually, little bit saturated like that. Okay, now I want this to only be on the jeans, so I'm gonna stand on the layer mask, press Ctrl and I, everything disappeared. Then using my selection, I'm gonna only select the jeans, something like that. And I'm gonna paint with white. Make sure it's 100% opacity, and of course it's like the regular brush on the jeans. Now we're only affecting the jeans. Now it looks good actually. The same, I wanna do it for the top side. So I'm gonna go to Hue and Saturation. What color you guys like think works best with blue? I guess orange or something reddish will be contrasting and good for this photo. So I guess I'll go with, oh wait, now we're targeting everything again, but just like focus on the top part. Okay, let's do it another way. We will do like the same thing, Control I, and just like paint only the top area with white, Alt backspace. I painted with white, and now we have it like that, but we can go here and just like keep trying different colors. I actually like this one, and I liked a little bit the yellow one. Actually, the red and the orange is even good. I don't know, they're all looking good. Something like that, I guess, is good. Let's try darker or brighter. No, let's make it like 0. Okay, now we're done with the jacket. I like the color like that. Okay, I guess one more thing we could do to the model. This part is too bright, I believe. So what I'm gonna do is on the curves layer we made, which was darkening everything, I'm just gonna paint white. It will darken this area a little bit. Okay. Now, one thing I'm gonna add, it's just like for fun. I'm gonna use a text by T and just press click and I will write, I believe in monsters. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl A to click on all of it. Then I'm gonna center it to the middle. Or I'll change it to I love monsters. Okay. Now I want to put this on his jacket. So I'm gonna press Ctrl T and just resize it, something like that. But now it's too flat. I need like to fix it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click first, rasterize it. So it's now a layer, it's not a text. I can't edit it. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl T, right click, warp. The warp tool will allow me to bend the photo. So I'll see the bends in the jacket actually. And I'll try like to move it along with them. So it's somehow like matching. This is not like gonna be like completely perfect, but it will look like realistic at least from far away, from like the distance we're using. Something like that. But then it's still too like strong and obvious. So what I'm gonna do is I'll try a different blending mode. Let's try overlay. Overlay is actually really good. It did like the job for us. Or you could just like stay on normal and reduce the opacity. I guess that's even better. So now if we zoom in, we'll see like I love monster and you see the M is bent and the I and everything. Okay, let's group everything. Control G. Let's call this model. Okay, now we're done with our model and with our background. It's time to create the monster. Okay, I'm gonna create a new layer. So sorry, not a new layer, a new folder. And I'm just gonna go with something like 1500 pixel by 1500 pixel and press OK. Now we have like some absolutely black background. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take like a photo of any of the monsters. Let's take this one for example. Put it here and let's see what the monster is all about. Let's flip it. Okay, it's just like we can take the pen tool now and we can just draw around it, something like that. Something like that. So this is what our monster should look like. This is like the head of it. Wait, I made a point by mistake. So this is the head of the monster, something like that. I'm gonna make selection. Okay, then I'm gonna add a new layer. Let's call this one head and I'll just color with black and just close it for now. Okay, let's do the right part and we will change a little bit of it. Okay, let's make him like fat from here a little bit. Then the monster goes something like that, then something like that, then like this. I don't like the fact that the monster doesn't have sharp fingers here. I believe like to be like dangerous or something like that, you must have, or scary, you must have like something sharp. So let's give him some sort of like a sharp fingers. Okay. Just after you hold click and draw a tangent, make sure you hold alt and press here so you get rid of the other one. Okay, let's give him another sharp edge here. And let's do something like that. And another sharp edge here. And I guess we're done with the right part. I'm just gonna close it. But here I have a problem. Actually, some of it is outside the canvas. So I'm gonna use the crop tool and just make it bigger a little bit. And then back on the pen tool, I'm gonna make my selection. Okay. And then let's say right. And paint with black. Okay, now we have the right part, we have the head. It's time to make the left part. So I'm gonna draw something like that. Something like that, let's say. Something like that. Like that. And give him the sharp like finger. If you wanna change the point, just hold control and move it. Okay, let's add some points. I'll change actually this one a little bit. I want it to be something like that. Okay, now the first arm is over. Let's do the second arm. In the left part, in the right part, we actually did one arm. We forgot the other one. So I'm gonna go back to it. Okay, let's make it somehow like that. Then jump back. Then like that. Just give him like sharp fingers and like fingernails. So it's like more scary. Okay, we're done with the left part of the monster. Something like that. Okay. Now we're gonna make our selection. Okay, on a new layer, I'm gonna call it left. Then also I'm gonna go to the crop tool. And oh wait, I'll press Ctrl Z. Before the selection, I needed to do the crop thing. So I'm just increased it. Now I'm gonna do on the pen tool, the selection. And on a new layer, I'm gonna paint black and call this left. Okay, now we forgot an area on the right, which was that arm actually. So I'm just gonna add a new layer, call it right back, put it below of it, and just like draw. No, I'll use the pen tool so we have like some sort of a curvature, better curvature. I'm gonna draw something like that. Okay, let's imagine like how it's gonna look like. Okay. Okay, one point I don't like here, so I'm gonna hold control and just move it up, and hold control and move this one also up. Something like that. Okay, now I'm gonna do selection. Okay, we have our selection and paint black. This is the right back, this is the head, this is the left. Okay, now we have some sort. In the left we have a problem, this actually. Or oh no, I'll just like remove it. So with the pen tool, I'm just gonna do something like that and make a selection and just delete so we don't have this area. So now I'm gonna group everything together, call it the monster, and just drag it to my first image, something like that. Now I'm gonna close this one, I don't need it. Okay, now let's make this monster big. Something like that, maybe. We can like even stretch him out a little bit. Something like that is good. Okay. Now comes like, this was the easy part in the monster. Now comes the hard part. Okay, just like to let you know, this hand, the big one, is gonna be in front. This one is gonna be like far away. This one is gonna be far away, this hand, and this hand is gonna be like close. So one of them will be behind the house, this one, the small one, and this one will be in front of it. Okay, so now let's start with our head. Okay, the head. Okay, what I wanna do is, if I'll start by dodging it to give it curvature in the shadows, but if I dodge in the shadows, nothing happened because it's completely black. So I'm gonna press Ctrl and M, and I'm just gonna move the output. I'll just do like a very subtle thing. Yeah, so it's just a little bit gray. So I'm gonna make this 10. The head should be like the highest thing. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl M again, make this one 10. Press Ctrl and M on all of them, make them like 10. And even the right back, I'm gonna move it up a little bit and make sure it's 10. Okay, now it's gray. Now if I stand on the head and I start dodging, you see what happens? It gets like brighter. So now we can work with it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is first I'm gonna pull the head a little bit down here, something like that. And on the right part, if you see, this one is like narrow and this one is wide. So on the right part, I'm just gonna add like something like that. And now I'm not gonna paint black, I'm gonna paint with this color, which is a little bit above black. And I'm gonna bring back the head. Okay, let's start with the head. The head we're gonna dodge on the shadows with 100 exposure. I'm just gonna dodge the edges, the very fine edges, something like that. Then I'm gonna increase the size, reduce the shadows a lot, and just dodge on top of everything. Not on top of everything actually, but on top of like half of it. So we have some sort of a gradient. Then I'm gonna bring it back to 100 and I'll start just dodging the edge only. So it's like some sort of a light. Okay, now we made the head. Let's go with the left part. Control click also. And let's go with the dodge tool. And let's start dodging. The first one is like a dodge. Okay, to make sure that the head is the most thing in front, I'm just gonna dodge this area a little bit. So that when we have gray here, it's like obvious that the head is in front of that. Okay, I'm just dodging all the edges, making them like brighter. Here I'll have like just to zoom in and just do the edge very carefully, something like that. Then same for this one. Same here, and just do the rest of everything. You don't have like to be super precise with it. Like you can make a variation of it because light is not gonna be like perfectly falling on it. Okay, then I'm gonna do this part, the other hand, just dodge the lower edge. And do the same with the fingers. And this is the last area. Okay, now I'm gonna just like increase the size of everything, reduce the opacity, and just go a bit wider here and there. Okay, now we have our arms. Actually, this is too burnt, so I'm gonna hold Alt, so it will do the opposite. When you hold Alt, you do the opposite of like not holding. And I'm just gonna do it again. This time, holding Alt and like doing it all over again. Now I'm gonna do it again. Let's see. I'll try like to. Okay, now it's completely black, so we have a problem. I'm gonna press Control click, and I'm gonna take just a color above black and just color with it first. Instead of like dodging, I'll just use a color to do it. Okay, something like that. We have a very dark area here, so I'm just gonna softly with a very soft shadow, just like brighten it up a little bit. Okay, now we have the monster. Let's do the last part. Go with the dodge and start. I'll do it a little bit slower so we don't face the problem we had here on 100%. I'm just gonna do the edges. Oh, this is the right back. We made the right into two layers. So this one, I'm gonna dodge it first like that. So now we know this is in front and this is back. And then I'm just gonna do the edges. The first one is like only the edges. Then I increase the size. Okay, that's the first one. Oh no, I don't want that. So I press Ctrl Z. Okay, now I'll just reduce the opacity, increase the size, and just give it all a little bit of edge or dodge, something like that. Also this one. something like that. Also this one here and there. Okay, and finally I'll just very slowly dodge just like the tips of the edges, something like that. That looked bad, so I went back undo. Okay, just the tips, so it looked like it's more 3D. Okay, the last part is the right. So first we dodge with 100%, sorry. We dodge something like that. I'm just holding click and moving the mouse. If you have like a tablet, it will be way easier for you because the mouse is harder to control. Yeah, just something like that. Okay, and just I'll brighten this part behind the head exactly so it looks like it's behind. Okay, then I'm gonna increase the size, reduce the exposure, and I'll just do a big one on everything. Not everything, just like the half of it. Okay, now we have our monster. It looks more 3D. We have the head, we have everything. So now let's start like playing around with it. Okay, first thing I'm gonna color it a little bit. I'll go to curves. I'm gonna link a layer below. And then in the blue channel, I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to it. And I'll go to the red channel, add a little bit of cyan. So now it's not like you see the before and after. It's not black and white, it's a little bit colored, but that's too much, I guess. So I'll just reduce the opacity a little bit. Okay, now we have some color. Okay, now we want to blend it a little bit with the environment. So what I'm gonna do is on the monster himself, I'm gonna add a layer mask. Or no, I'm not gonna do it on the monster, I'm gonna do it one by one. Okay, on the head, I'm gonna add a layer mask. I'm gonna take my cloud brush, and with a black color, black will delete, and a very low opacity, I'm gonna start to delete parts of the monster actually, so that the sky behind him will start to appear. So I'm gonna very low opacity, something like that. I'm just gonna start deleting some areas. The head, we don't want to delete a lot of it because it's the most thing in the front. However, when we take like the left arm, I will delete like from here a lot. This one will completely disappear because it's behind the house, sorry. Only this area. Like, yeah, we wasted a lot of time actually doing it and it was useless. And then this arm, I'm just gonna like, I want it to look like it's a lot back. So I'm just gonna paint like that. And I wanna show like this one is like actually like going also behind. Paint like that. Okay, let's go on the upper part. First, it's gonna like fade a little bit. Then it's gonna be really clear. I wanna fade the first area a little bit. Something like that. Then here it should be a little bit here. It's gonna be like really clear because it's like very close to the front. Here it's gonna be like, this is like the part where it goes like behind the clouds. And I wanna just make sure a very small part of the edge gets burned away, like gets like not burned, like gets hidden behind the cloud. So I'm gonna hide this edge just behind the cloud, something like that. Okay, now that looks good. And I can also like reduce the opacity a little bit of it, of everything. Okay, so now we're like, now this like is going behind the clouds and then appearing from the front. But when we reduced the opacity, this part became like transparent. So I'm gonna bring back the opacity. Instead of reducing the opacity, I'll just with the brush and just like with 5%, I'm just gonna paint all over this one. again all over this one. This is exactly like reducing the opacity. Okay, the head now is, I believe, too strong. I'm gonna reduce its opacity a little. No, we can't, because behind it there is like something, but we'll like fix it. Okay, now this one is like close to the camera, but it's like it's first far away. This area is far away, then it comes very close to us. This one is completely far away, so I'm just gonna add layer mask. One thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press Control click this one, and I'm gonna paint on this black. So now I got rid of like what's first it was like that. Now I got rid of this part. So it's just like on the edge with it. I'm gonna move it a little bit so it's touching. Okay. Now on this one, I'm gonna, with the brush, the cloud brush, I'm just gonna get rid of like the edges of the hand. Some of like, this is too strong, so I'm gonna reduce the opacity, make it like 10% only. Yeah, something like that. You can like use black and white. White will bring back, and if you press X, you switch to black, you can erase. So I want to bring back maybe that area, and I want to fade more this area, and I want to bring back it here a little bit. Okay, and the last part is this one. I'm gonna add a layer mask. First, I'm gonna press Control click on the head, and I'm gonna add a layer mask. No, just like so you don't get confused. First, I'm gonna add a layer mask. Then I'm gonna press Control click on the head, and then on the layer mask, I'm gonna paint black. So behind the head, we don't have any excess. Also, I'm gonna do it with that one. Okay, on that one, I'm gonna press Control click on the head and paint here black. So now behind the head there is nothing. So now we can like reduce the opacity of it a little bit. Okay, on the right arm, I'm gonna, with the same brush, which is the cloud brush, I'm gonna just like fade a little bit this one. Not so much, I want it to be like closer. Okay, then I'm gonna fade a little bit the edges of the hands, something like that. Reduce the opacity a little bit. And just, I'll also fade this area a lot. I'll just walk with the cloud. You see the cloud behind? I'm gonna like increase the opacity. Oh no, sorry. We were on the right. Yeah, on this one. I'm gonna increase the opacity here. And I'm just gonna go with the cloud itself behind. So it looks like it's like disappearing behind the clouds, then reappearing again. Yeah, so it's here disappearing like behind the clouds, then reappearing again, but I'll just make it like reappear a little bit more faded. Yeah, something like that. Okay, now we have our shadow monster. We have it colored. Okay, now I'm gonna color grade everything. So I'm gonna add a new layer of curves adjustment. I'm gonna raise my like blacks a little bit to fade it out. Then I'm gonna bring my dark points to like below a little bit. Then I'm gonna brighten the bright areas. Okay, now we added some sort of contrast while fading the photo, but we're not done yet. We're gonna add another one. But this time, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a lot of brightness. But then on this one, I'm gonna press Ctrl and I, so it disappears. And then using a brush, I'm just gonna use on white color. And now wherever I paint, I'll bring back some lightness. So I'm gonna paint on the model and on the monster to make them a little bit bright. That's too strong, so something like that. We brightened like the middle area. Okay, one more thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a gradient map. Let's try like different colors. Let's try this one. Let's go to color. Let's bring the opacity like down a little bit. Something like that. Actually, no, it doesn't look good. I'll just color grade using the curves. I'm gonna go to the red channel. I'm gonna add some red in the highlights. Then some blues. Then sorry, some cyan in the like the shadows. Then I'll go to the blue channel, add some blue to the shadow and some yellow to the highlights. And I'll go to the green, I'll add some magenta to my highlights. Okay, now we're good. What else could we do? We could I wanna create some sort of a vignette. So I'm gonna go to brightness and contrast. I'm gonna reduce the brightness of everything. Then I'm gonna take a brush, a circle brush, and I'm just gonna paint with black in the middle, something like that. So now, just a minute, it's going slow. Okay, so now what we have is this area is a little bit brightened up. I'll do the same with the opposite. I'm gonna increase the brightness of everything. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl and I so it disappear. Then with the white, I'm gonna paint here, 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 here. So I'm making these areas like a little bit brighter. Okay, so now this what the vignette did, these two. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold Ctrl Alt Shift, then press E. It will merge everything into a new separate layer. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Okay, and in the Camera Raw Filter, I'm gonna now increase a little bit of contrast. The clarity, I'm gonna decrease the clarity actually, so it's more faded. I'll try the vibrance. No, it doesn't look good, it's too colorful. Okay, then I'm gonna go to the FX module. I'm gonna try to dehaze it a little bit. Okay, this looks good. It makes it like clearer. And I'm gonna add a little bit of vignette. And I'm gonna press OK. Okay, this is how it looks like now. And we're done for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Make sure you subscribe. And if you have any suggestions or any comment, make sure you leave them below in the comment section. Thank you.